You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey Vet Rehabbers! So if you are a member of any of our Facebook groups, you would have met Lloyd, Online Pet Health's veterinary physiotherapist. Now, for those of you that aren't, you can go onto Facebook and find us there. We have the Hydro Vet Rehabbers, Small Animal Vet Rehabbers, Equine Vet Rehabbers, and the Business Vet Rehabbers. Come and join us. We are a wonderful community that support one another, share tips and advice, and it's really a great place where all the vet rehabbers hang out. So now you will usually find both of us interviewing other vet rehabbers for my podcast and also for the Facebook Lives there. But today we decided that we should have a little chat and record it. So Anaya and I are known to have lengthy conversations about all different topics, and usually on the telephone because we live in different places. And then afterwards I always say, I wish I'd recorded that. So that's what we're doing now. So with COVID-19, the way that we're able to learn, the way that we're able to communicate has changed so much. So Anaya and I discussed some research that she looked into regarding learning online. We touched on a few of the key problems that we're having in our profession at the moment, and the main one being unity. We also speak about research and how each and every one of us can play a part and be involved in the much needed research for our field. Now, these topics are all coming up in the way of discussion rooms at the Vet Rehab Summit. This is our online annual conference. It's happening on the 14th of November, and you can find out more at vetrehabsummit.com. So let's head over to my chat with Anaya. Hey Anaya, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi Meg, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, Anaya, the year of 2020 has been an absolutely crazy year for everyone. I think all the listeners can agree. So for a lot of us, we had things that we had planned to do, which we can't do. Things have changed in our work environments. Some of us are hopefully back completely working, but not exactly how we used to, right? And obviously the conferences that we planned to go to, and I know one of the ones that we had planned to go to was the IAVRPT conference in Cambridge, got postponed. So there's so many things that we're wanting to do, and learning is obviously a priority for a lot of us. So I think you'd even booked your tickets, hadn't you? Your flight tickets for Cambridge.
Meg, I was so excited to go to England. My whole family was coming with me. We booked our tickets more than a year ago already. So yeah, we're pretty bummed. We had like our whole trip planned. We were going to do the conference and then, a couple of touristy things afterwards as a family. So yeah, I was very excited about it. It would have been my first IAVRPT or really any international conference. So I was very much looking forward to it.
I know, I booked the house and everything where we were going to stay. I luckily hadn't booked the flight tickets yet, but I was literally just about to. Really, I was so close. And I know that they've now postponed the conference till next year. And even now they're talking about whether they're going to have a live conference or not, whether it's going to be online. And I thought we could chat about the differences between online conferences and live conference, because obviously we have our annual Vet Rehab Summit, which we are still going ahead with, which is on the 14th of November. And I know that we're going to have a lot of people online because a lot of them wouldn't have even attended a conference this year because of COVID. So, I mean, one of the things that is so awesome about a live conference is we get to meet new people, right? And we get to make friends and spend some time with them. And it's not about that time maybe where you're sitting in the lecture hall. It's about that coffee that you share with somebody on the corner of a stand somewhere, and that little moment that you laugh at something together or whatever, and then introduce yourselves and meet them.
Yeah, I have to say that is really the thing about live conferences that make them so incredibly valuable, is we get to reconnect with the people that studied with us, with our colleagues, with our friends who have moved far away from us. So just from that aspect, just getting to see everyone again is so valuable. And then meeting new people and making new connections and getting to know, some other people, some other therapists that might be in your area. You might have seen the name, you might have heard of them. You may even have referred to each other, but you've never actually had a chance to meet, to sit and have a cup of coffee, to just kind of get to know that person. So from that aspect, so valuable. The sponsors as well. I mean, without sponsors, conferences are impossible. I know that from our SAPRA conferences, being behind the scenes, there is just no way that you can cover the costs without those sponsors. And from an attendee perspective, being able to chat to your suppliers about the different products that they have, find new suppliers. Without our suppliers, we're kind of stuck, right? We need to have those contacts so that when we need new electrodes or a new TENS machine, or we need to get an assisi loop for a client, or we need to do whatever, it's easy for us to just get on the phone, write an email, whatever it may be, get it done, and there are always new products coming out. There's always new amazing innovative things happening. So this is where we find out about them, because who reads their emails, right?
Something that you said I really loved. You said you get to meet those people that maybe like you've heard of, and what I think is so fabulous is like we've got these wonderful online communities. So the Small Animal Vet Rehabbers, Hydro Vet Rehabbers, the Business Vet Rehabbers, and the Equine Vet Rehabbers, and we're having conversations online. And there's some people that we're chatting to all the time, and you get used to like seeing their name. And maybe seeing their little Facebook picture, and what's so wonderful is like those relationships that we build online. When you're at a live conference, you can actually meet that person, and you can be like, oh yes, like I've seen your post, and you had that case, and you can have a conversation about what's happening online. And I think we're moving so much into online, and I think COVID has really fast-tracked that for a lot of us. I mean, you and I were already online, online pet health is online, everything we do, so for the listeners, and maybe some of you don't know, we don't sit in the same office together, online pet health. I mean, Ine is in one part of South Africa, I'm in another part of South Africa in Cape Town, Michelle is in the UK, and so everything we do was on Zoom, so we're always having Zoom meetings, all our meetings, and very rarely do we get together. It's usually around the Vet Rehab Summit. Where we actually all fly in together and actually come together, and it's probably not going to happen this year because of COVID. So we're so used to being online, and I know for a lot of other people, now coming onto Zoom calls and learning more online has been a massive shift and a change for them. So going back to the conference, I think, the online conference, the Vet Rehab Summit, we never ever created the Vet Rehab Summit ever to replace live conferences. For us, like the live conferences are so important for that connection that you get. But obviously this year, not having any conferences, we are really trying our best at this year's Vet Rehab Summit to bring that connection, right? And so Ine and I actually, we brainstormed the theme for this year's conference, and funnily enough, it was actually before COVID even hit, right?
Yeah, it was like 3 months before COVID. So yeah, I mean, Meg, when we were brainstorming themes, I was dead set on connections, and I had to sell you on it, right? But for me, it has been such a bit of a personal journey, understanding connection, as well as something that's been coming up more and more in our communities, because obviously I'm really tapping into what's happening with you guys. What are you guys speaking about? What's happening in our industry? That's relevant for me all the time. So connections, right? The connections within the body, the interconnectedness of the body, for example, through fascia, but through everything, through compensation, movement, function, dysfunction, all of those interconnections that occur. And then also the connection between professionals, between different professionals. So if we're thinking about our Vet Rehab team, who are we working with? How are we solidifying and establishing those relationships? How are we referring to each other? How are we communicating with each other? What are our protocols in our systems? And how do we make sure that not only those protocols are working, but the relationships that we're forming are strong, that those connections are strong and are working to the favor of our patients? And then also, I mean, the connection between us as colleagues, right, Meg? within our Facebook communities, for example, our WhatsApp communities, it's so important for us to be able to just touch base with a friend, with a colleague, when we feel overwhelmed by a case that is different from anything we've seen before, or that we're not having success with, and we just need to brainstorm what is going on. So it's so important to have those connections that are strong. The connections with our suppliers, I've already mentioned that. Like, it's so easy for us to kind of sweep them under the rug and say, yes, but they're sponsors, and it's all corporate-y. But without our suppliers, we are lost. Like, we need them. We need to have strong relationships with them, so that when we need something, we can get it. When there's a problem, we can figure it out. It's really important to have that. So for me, connection as our theme was kind of non-optional. It was just, Meg, we're doing this.
Yeah, and obviously now with COVID, it's even more important, because we all just feel like we've lost connection. I mean, like, if you think about it, in our lives, we just pretty much here at home, you go and do whatever the necessary is, but, meeting up with friends and, seeing people, like, I mean, I feel like I haven't seen my friends in ages. Like, we talk on the phone, and, so we all of us, I think, are needing a little bit of connection, right?
Yeah. I agree. To see our our families that are not in our households, and our friends, I agree. I miss them. I feel like I don't even know when last I've just gone for a cup of coffee, which used to be one of my favorite things. So yeah, connection online is great, but we really do need that face-to-face contact with people. That's important as well. So there always needs to be just a balance. It doesn't have to be, only one or only the other, but definitely a balance. Yeah.
So obviously now we are trying our best to connect you guys as best as we can at the Vet Rehab Summit this year. So let's chat about a few of the things that we've got planned. So the first one is that around the world networking.
Yeah, so Meg, tell us about that, because that's kind of your baby. Like, for you, it's really important to connect people. So how are you planning on doing that with the summit?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things that happened over COVID, so like there's so many good things for me that has happened out of COVID. But one of the things that I started doing was this virtual coffee with Megan. And we would do it every week during COVID, chatting to one another, supporting one another, because everyone was going through such tough times. And some parts of the world had certain things had been happening, and they could give advice to others that were following, But at these virtual coffees, what I really realized, which is so amazing, is that we had people and vet rehabbers from all over the world, and they were started to collaborate and started to work together. And they were organizing Facebook Lives. So we had someone in the UK organizing a Facebook Live with someone in South Africa, and people from all over the world just doing things together. Because they suddenly had time to do these things that they hadn't been doing. And it was amazing to see that with those collaborations, what actually happened with their brand and their practices, and the recognition that they got from other professionals, veterinary professionals. So they were obviously doing all of this on social media. And that really got me thinking into, how can we all work together? So the around the world networking is basically, we'll go into your country or area, depending on where you are, and we're going to sort of go out into some breakout rooms, and we'll sort of divide it up. So like the states, obviously we'll divide it up into all the different states, and we'll go into breakout rooms where everyone can connect. And so if we know, like in an area we have a hydrotherapist, a physio, a vet, all the people that are doing vet rehab in that area, how can we all actually work together? So instead of seeing each other as competitors, like how can we work together to increase the awareness of veterinary rehabilitation in our area? And this is really one of our biggest struggles, is that, when I chat to vet rehabbers, they say that, the vets don't recognize them. They don't value what they can do. A lot of the pet owners don't know about veterinary rehabilitation. And so it's up to us to actually be able to educate them. And I know for a lot of the vet rehabbers out there, they don't have time to go and do all the lectures and to write blogs and all the kind of things. But one thing that they really can do is to network and work together, and they can do things collaboratively, because all of you together, you can make such a big impact. So yeah, in these around the world rooms, we're going to have a PDF download with some whole lot of tips and advice on how you guys can network with the professionals in your area and how you guys can work together to increase this awareness, and really hoping that this will globally grow the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
So Meg, you've said something now that I would love to just expand on a bit, right? I've recently been introduced to the scarcity mindset thing, and versus the abundance mindset and the pie getting bigger. So if you guys are not familiar with that concept, definitely go and research it, because it's very life altering in how you approach things. But basically, when we bring it to ourselves, what we need to realize is that there are enough clients to go around. We're not in competition with each other. The more we work together, the more we collaborate, the more we share, the more we inter-refer, the more we create strong connections, strong relationships with our colleagues and with other professionals. The greater we're going to do, the better we're going to do at the end of the day. And a thought that's occurred to me recently is that if we're not getting referrals from vets, why is that happening? What is going on there? And I know there are loads of factors that are at play there. But I think one thing that we can do, that we can control, is to say, well, if I need referrals, then let me refer. And it may not be just referring to the vets who you want to refer to you, but to other professionals. So if we say, let's get some groomers on board, some trainers on board, a nutritionist on board, anything and anyone that you can find who's going to complement you as a professional in some way, form a relationship with them, start connecting with them, and start referring to them. The greater that network becomes, the further it's going to spread. And what you sow is what you reap. So if you're referring, you're going to get more referrals. So I think that's, I don't know if it will work, but it is something that's occurred to me recently that I think is important for us to change our mindsets, to say, if I'm lacking something, let me give it out. Let's see what comes back. So yes, I wanted to just put that in there.
I so agree with you, and I think that a lot of us think that there are not enough cases out there. So we worry. We think that if we're in an area where there are a lot of therapists, and if we don't keep them all for ourselves, then we're not going to have enough work. And that is not the case, guys. There are so many cases. I mean, even where I was in when I had my practice, there were lots of hydrotherapists, and started lots of people coming into the field. And I must say, the way that I always used to think, when I used to think about my patients, is I used to think, what is the best thing for the animal all the time? And so I just had that mindset, whether it was me or whether it was someone down the road, it didn't matter to me, who it was, whoever was the best and the right person. And if I couldn't help the animal, then somebody else could. And so I wouldn't try and treat animals, try and force whatever I could do. So I had my strengths, obviously, and force that on that particular patient and try and make it work if it wasn't working. So I think that abundancy mindset is a massive, it's a shift that you have to have. And maybe that's a blog or a training or another podcast that we can talk about, because I think that a lot of us are scared. We're scared to give away. We're scared to refer because we want to keep everything to ourselves. But networking and building relationships with other practitioners, even if they are deemed to be sort of direct competitors with you, everyone has something to offer. And what you'll find is when you start referring to them, they'll start referring to you. And you're actually working together all for the best outcome of the animals. So what is best for the animals?
Yeah, so I think that's really important. So I really love that you're bringing those around the world into the summit, because yes, as we've said, we haven't had that opportunity this year to go to our local conferences, to connect with each other, to see each other. So I think it'll be really good to bring that down from a global scale, right? The summit is very global, to a local scale, and get us all together in one room so that we can chat, connect, see each other, and collaborate. I love it.
So, and then obviously the Vet Rehab Summit is not only about education. So, I mean, this year especially, we really are trying to solve some key issues that we are finding in the veterinary rehabilitation field. So we have got 4 discussion rooms. So do you want to chat about the discussion rooms? Because that's your baby.
So we know that, there are some really big challenges that our profession has faced up until this point, and things that we're still tackling. And the one that to me is kind of at the top of that list is unity, in the recent months especially. So we're going to have a discussion room where we're going to be brainstorming solutions, like what have some countries done that has worked, what can be implemented in areas where this is a massive problem right now. Really, how can we work together? How can we create unity within our profession as well as interprofessional team? So that's the big one that I'm really looking forward to. And then you guys know me already. Research is really important to me. So we've included a research and clinical practice discussion room where we're going to be looking at the ways that we can make it possible for us as clinicians in everyday practice to start putting some research together, to start getting some data out that's going to validate what we are doing. And there are some really good models of how we can do that, and that are practical, that we can all do. So I'm very excited about that one. And then natural balance is something that's been kind of prickling in the back of my mind. It's been a bit of a buzzword lately, and it kind of makes me question, what is natural balance? If we're returning our patients natural balance, what exactly are we returning them to? In dogs, this is a little bit newer, but in the equine industry, there is no such thing as a naturally balanced horse. They just don't exist, because they're all asymmetrical. They all have a preferred side. They all have asymmetries. That is natural, that they have asymmetry. So the same thing is true for us as human beings. We have natural asymmetry. That is the normal. So is the same thing not true for canines? Do they not also have natural asymmetry? Do they not also have preferences from side to side? So that's something that we're really going to explore a little bit in a discussion room and chat about, and see if we can understand this terminology a little bit better. And then the fourth thing that's always important to us is the strength of our businesses. So we're going to have a discussion room dedicated to business resilience, where we're going to have kind of like a worksheet where we're going to kind of see how resilient is your business when a huge economic disaster strikes, high COVID. How resilient is your business? What is going to happen to you? Obviously, this was COVID was a massive economic thing for the whole world, so it affected us all, but there may be something that happens that specifically affects your business. So I think this is going to be a really good one. We've been doing some amazing business training in the business basics, and I think this will just take it to the next level. So yes, those are our discussion rooms. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're obviously also all going to be live. So this year, we used to have it as 3 days, the Vet Rehab Summit. Now it's 1 day. So a lot of we used to have loads of live webinars. So like 1 or 2 recordings and the rest live. And then what we found is that people actually would come and go. And so we decided, let's put that into recordings, most of them. Have a few discussion rooms, the around the world networking. And then we're going to have 1 live webinar and the 3 tracks all happening at the same time. But we've actually got 21 hours or 21 webinars, right? Yeah. Do you want to touch on quickly a little bit about what they can look forward to in the learning and sort of academic capacity?
Definitely. So as you say, there are 21 hours of CE here. We have a hydro stream, a small animal stream, and then an equine stream. And each stream has one live webinar for the day, and the rest are recorded. So you can watch those recordings at your leisure, and just join us for the live sessions, because to do our discussion rooms and our around the world, we have to make live space, right? So I'm very excited. On the hydro side, we have Barbara Holding from K9HS joining us for the first time on online pet health, and she's going to be speaking about a few really key concepts in hydrotherapy, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then on the hydro side, I mean, we have everything from Kristen Kirkby-Shaw speaking about research again, to Ellen Martins, to Lowry Davies, from fascia to compensation. So really coming around the theme of connection, and bringing some different aspects of it together. For our small animal lineup, we have, again, quite a variety. Leslie Eade is going to be speaking about some training concepts that we can bring into our work. Michelle Broadhurst is speaking about myofascial trigger points. And then we have Lowry Davies, Kiki Housley, and Jen Repack, everything from thermography to muscle mass and strength, and the connections between all of these fantastic things, which is going to be amazing. I mean, we know how amazing Lowry is. She always blows my mind. And Jen Repack has also been a great lecturer on our platform, so it's going to be awesome to have her back. On the equine side, we're welcoming some new people, which I'm excited about. So Tulia Luomala is a myofascial trainer and expert. So she's going to be speaking to us about fascial manipulation and treatment tools. And Bart Hulsberg is speaking about equine physiatry, which is a new one to me that I'm looking forward to. And Mark Caldwell is also new to our platform, and he's going to look at manipulating ground reaction forces for a biomechanical advantage from a hoof perspective, so from a farriery perspective, which in our equines we know how important that is. And then there are obviously a few more awesome ones, and we have the name is out of my head, Sybil Molly live on the equine side speaking about kinesiology taping. So that is, I think that's my highlight. That's the one I'm looking forward to. Yeah, so that's what we can look forward to from our academic side.
Yeah, some awesome learning. And then, of course, obviously, we have the exhibitor stands. So, guys, at the Vet Rehab Summit, we have loads of exhibitors from all over the world. And they have like what we call our sort of little virtual stands. And you are able to connect with them there. You can video chat with them. You can text chat. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. You can go to their websites, have a look at their products, and ask them any questions that you have about their products and service. So as much as we're all going to be connecting and we're learning about connections within the body, the connections with all the people that offer products and services to us, without them we wouldn't be able to practice. If you think about a lot of the products that we use and the services that they provide us. So that's also going to be open to everyone. And this year at the Vet Rehab Summit, we actually have a free limited access pass. So the Vet Rehab Summit was actually started for our online pet health members. So it is free to our online pet health members. They get VIP access, so they get access to everything. But we also really feel that it's important that those of you that maybe can't afford to be members of online pet health, for whatever reason, that you actually get access to some learning. And we want you guys to be able to come online to get access to all those exhibitors. We're giving you access to the live webinar, so you can choose a live webinar, and also to that Unity discussion room, because that's obviously so important to all of us. So whether you're an online pet health member or not. And then another great exciting thing on the day, which this is something that I am super excited about, is the IAVRPT Vet Rehab Therapist of the Year Award.
Yes.
So that's being announced straight after the live webinars. And so for those of you that don't know about this, it's an award created by the IAVRPT board. And we really wanted to recognize the veterinary rehab therapists around the world. And I used to see all these other people winning all these awards, like Vet of the Year, Vet Nurse of the Year, all these other awards all over the world. And I was thinking, like, why don't we have a Vet Rehab Therapist of the Year award? And so that's what we've done. And so the winner will actually be announced. And what's really exciting about this award, I think, is it's not actually the board that is deciding who is going to be the winner. It's actually our community. So our community is nominating. The board will be selecting 8 finalists, and from those 8 finalists, the community will be voting. So you guys are the ones that get to vote to who is going to be. And the first one especially, I think every year it's going to be a prestigious award, but the first one's going to be really, really a prestigious award. And we really hope that next year happens at Cambridge, and the actual physical award will then be given to that person.
Meg, that's very exciting and reminds me that I haven't nominated someone yet. I'd better get on that.
You better. So yeah.
That's
so
fantastic.
What is the difference? Like, let's just chat about, because obviously now we're chatting all about the Vet Rehab Summit, and let's just chat about like the different ways in which we can learn. Because online learning has obviously become a really huge part of the way that we're learning now.
So very interestingly, there's been obviously the whole world now has had to shift to online learning in different aspects, from schools to CE for every profession everywhere. So there's been some research done, and I found this recently, and it blew my mind. And this is stuff that I knew before because I've been working with online education, but I never knew it to this kind of degree. But basically, we can learn face-to-face, and for many people, they think that they prefer that because learning face-to-face has an aspect of it's involving different senses, right? You can learn with your hands, with visuals, with whatever that's in front of you, but essentially you're learning in 3 dimensions. And then you can also learn online, and you can learn in a combination of those ways. And when you're learning online, you are responsible for your own learning, right? There's no one standing in front of you telling you to concentrate. You have to be respectful of your lecturer, so you need to sit there and listen. So when you're learning online, it's very self-regulated. You have to be disciplined to make the time, to set it aside, and to make focus time, because if you're watching a series or making dinner while you're busy with your CE, you're not going to be taking as much of it in. So there are those sort of differences. But what the research has shown is that learning through online platforms requires 40 to 60% less of your time than face-to-face learning, which is massive. All of us struggle to find time. So this is a massive time saver, both for companies who have employees who need to be doing CE and for us as individuals. Secondly, online learning increases your retention, your learning retention by 25 to 60%. So for me, again, that's really significant. I'm not wasting my time in a classroom and then not going to remember what I did, because I am responsible for my focus and my time. I can stop when I need, when my focus is diverted, and come back to it when I'm ready. So huge increase in retention rates. If you compare 25 to 60% retention rate online to 8 to 10% retention rate when you're face to face, that's a big difference. In the same amount of time, you can cover 5 times more material when you're learning online. And then 42% of companies reported that online learning has led to an increase in revenue. So let that sink in. 42% of companies report that online learning leads to an increase in revenue. Don't know about you guys, but I'd like, greater revenue. And the last one, 72% of companies say that online learning gives them an increased competitive edge as they're able to stay ahead of the changes in the industry. So these are huge implications for not only us individuals who are looking for the best ways to to further ourselves in our profession, but also for our companies and for us, for our professional institutions, because it means we can have a competitive edge and it means we can increase our revenue. So those are, I know that it's not fun to listen to statistics, but these really blew my mind. So I wanted to share them with you guys. There is a massive advantage when we're learning online versus learning in person. And I think there is a balance, of course, because there are things that we can't learn online. We can't feel how much tape to stretch and apply when we're watching someone else do it, but we can when we're in front of someone. We can ask them, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? They can see us and give us feedback. So again, not taking away from that in-person training, but saying that the bulk of it, the majority of it, we can do by ourselves online. And then for that practical component, we need to be sitting in front of someone, getting all the senses involved, asking questions, interacting. And so I really wanted to share that with you.
Oh, those are some amazing stats. I think for me, one of the biggest things about learning online is the time saving, and especially having a young family, being able to learn when the time is right for me, and that's the problem with when you go to a talk or you go to a CPD events, and it's the traveling to get there, the childcare. Whereas if I want to do CPD and I say I want to do it in the evening or on the weekend, if my kids are playing or if they're at a play date or whatever, when the time's right for me, then I can actually log in and go and watch, and you can watch a replay. Obviously, the live webinars, you don't always have to attend them. It's great to be able to attend them, but the whole purpose of online is that it's at your convenience, right? Mm-hmm. So like if that time is convenient for you, great, go online and watch. We have loads of online Pet Health members that attend live, but then a lot of them also just watch the recordings because that time's maybe not right for them. So, and I think a lot of us are trying to get this work-life balance, right? I mean, this is the thing, is that if we're spending so much time driving to go to conferences, and there's a lot of, it's not just the time at the conference. Obviously, a lot of us, if we're traveling and it's far traveling, it's the 3 days around that in order to be away from our practices and from our families. And those were really, really interesting stats. I didn't know a lot of that.
They don't even talk about the cost perspective here, but as you say, Meg, not only are you paying for travel and accommodation and the conference, but you're also losing that income because you're not at work, you're not seeing your patients, you're not, never mind the time you don't get to spend with your family. So it's a decreased revenue together with lost time, together with that cost implication of traveling, being away. But traveling can also be really fun. So there's that.
You can listen to podcasts when you're traveling.
Yes.
You can still do it.
You can also listen to podcasts now when you're treating patients because your owner's not in the room. So you can have your podcast on play. Yeah, I have to say I am a recordings girl. I don't like to watch live because I want to be able to pause and walk away and go to the bathroom or go make a cup of tea or whatever strikes my fancy when my brain switches off, and come back and not have lost any information. So for me, the recording part is important.
Yeah.
And it also makes me take responsibility for my questions, right? If I have questions, then I can say, well, let me try and find the answer. Let me see if I can figure this out, or take it back into the Facebook community, or then of course we can always email the lecturers at any point to get that answer. But you have that increased kind of responsibility to try and figure it out, to try and find the answer before you just ask.
I mean, I think for me as well, like the fact that we do online learning now is so great, because I remember for me it was like waiting for the next conference in order to learn just wasn't enough, right? I mean, that's how online Pet Health actually started. It was from me seeking more knowledge, getting Matt Brunke to do that kinesio taping webinar. That was the first one. And in the beginning, it was never about actually starting a business at all. It was really just about I want to know about that. How can I learn about it? Who else wants to learn about that? Okay, like let's get Matt to do a webinar. And we originally actually wanted Matt to come out here to South Africa, but it was just too expensive to get him out here, right? So and for me, it's like being able to learn continuously, because that was always what I was seeking. You know, I was seeking that knowledge on a continual basis. So not like twice a year when there's a conference or a workshop or something like that. Doing online learning for me has been fabulous in that way, that I just feel like I'm consistently learning and just bettering myself and improving my knowledge. And the more knowledge I get, the more confident I feel, and the better I feel about what I'm doing for the animals. You know, I can really know that I'm doing right by them because I have as much knowledge as I can.
Yeah, Meg, an interesting thing is that if you guys have read Stephen Covey's book, he says that the average lifespan of a profession is 4 years. So if you come out of college and just go into work and do no CE, you remain relevant for 4 years, and then you're outdated. That is seriously scary. And I get it. I mean, I was going through some of my texts and lectures from college 2 nights ago, just kind of sorting through everything. And I was thinking, you know, do I remember this stuff? You know, what did I do in college? And that's like a couple of years ago. But staying up to date with continuing education, staying up to date with the field, if we don't, we become irrelevant, and then we're not doing the best thing for our patients, and we can't get better jobs or better positions or grow our businesses or do the best thing for our patients. At the end of the day, it's about our patients and what we're doing for them. So that is really what it comes down to. But getting a better position or an opportunity overseas, or being able to go and work for one of the big league guys that we all look up to and we all idolize, those are only options if we're pushing ourselves all the time and if we commit to doing continuing education. And that was a big one for me. When I was in practice, it's hard to make time to sit and study, but it's a choice that we have to make. And I think it's one of the defining factors for me of our community, and what it means to be a vet rehabber. A vet rehabber is not content to just be who they are. They need to be growing, learning, committing to more all the time. So yeah, are you a vet rehabber, or do you have some trouble with this?
Yeah, and I so agree with you. You know, as you're talking now, I was just remembering a conversation I had with a vet rehabber, and they were saying, you know, with the access to the internet, if you're not keeping up to date, there is a possibility that your client will know something more than you do. And that is a really horrible place to be in, when you're sitting in a consult room and they ask you a question or say, I read something about this, and then you look at them blankly because you don't know. And you know, they were saying, this video was saying that's one of their fears. So then one of their fears is that they and they've had situations where like a pet owner has known a little bit more than them, and they've had to say, well, I'm going to have to go research on that. So yeah, I mean, we have to be keeping up to date for many reasons, but that's also one, is that our pet owners, they're learning more and more and more, right? And they have so much more knowledge than they did 10 years ago because of the internet. Which is good and bad. There's some where it's bad, but it is good. We want them to be informed. But we also have to be informed and be on top of our game, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. One of my scariest patients, Meg, was a DM patient, but the owner worked in neurology in some department. So she had crazy knowledge about the neurological system, and the neurological system is not my strong point. It definitely wasn't back then. So that was my scariest patient, but it worked out in the end very well, I have to say, but it was scary.
And it's been so awesome talking to you. We should do this again. We should do another podcast together.
Yeah, we definitely should. It's great to just have a chat between us. Yeah, thanks, Meg.
Cool, Nay. Awesome chatting.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. And please, if you get a moment, head over to Stitcher or iTunes and leave me a review. It's a really lonely job being a podcaster, and so the only time I get to hear from you or know that you're out there is when I get a review. And know that I read every single one of your reviews. So to those of you that have left reviews, I want to say a very, very big thank you. Every time we get a review, it really helps to get the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast out there to all the vet rehabbers all over the world. Alright, vet rehabbers, so if you are looking for more continuing education in the field of veterinary rehabilitation, head over to onlinepethealth.com. Go be awesome, guys.